part 3 of our Star of Wonder Quilt Along, which is our free Christmas quilt along. This block is going to be a little bit more complicated and you'll have to pay attention to the colors, but it's going to really add that pop of color to the outside of your quilt. So go to fatquartershop.com, download the free pattern for block 3, and let's get started. I'm using the Once Upon a Christmas collection by Sweetfire Road and Moda Fabrics, and this week's block is called North Star. We're going to make 2 blocks that look like this and 2 blocks that look like this. And I wanted to start off by showing you the blocks because in each block you have all matching pinks and you have different reds on each side, and that's really important because that's going to form the design with the other blocks. And it's really hard to kind of envision now, but I wanted you to see the blocks before we start so you can know kind of what to look for when you're matching all your fabrics before we start. So your first step is to download the free pattern, cut your fabrics, label them with your alphabetties, and then I have just stacked my reds and pinks together, but a little bit separately just so I can tell the difference. So we're going to jump right in and start on page 1. We're going to start with a fabric C rectangle and 2 matching fabric F squares. On the wrong side of the squares, you're going to draw a line from corner to corner. And then I'm going to glue these down, and I'm going to show you how to do that. You can either pin or glue, either one. I'm using the seam align glue. It's kind of like my new favorite tool. So if you do that, you're probably not going to have the best results because you're going to sew on top of your other fabric. So the first thing you're going to do is just take this first one, stitch directly on the line, trim 1/4 inch away, and press towards the white. Now it's really important you press towards the white so that your seams will nest. Then you'll take your second fabric F square, add that to the bottom, stitch directly on that line, trim 1/4 inch away, and this is going to be your right star unit. You're going to make 2 of these with the matching red fabrics, and then with the same direction you're going to make 2 with the star fabric. So 2 and 2 makes 4. We're going to take your unit, move to page 2, and add a fabric E rectangle at the bottom. You're going to sew this together with a 1/4 inch seam, press according to your pattern. Then on the left side, you're going to add a fabric B rectangle. Stitch with a 1/4 inch seam, and this is what your left star frame unit will look like. You're going to make 2 of these, and then you're going to make 2 of these. So here, when you're making this block, you just want to make sure your white is on your left side, your angle is here, and your 2 red fabrics are matching. So these are your left frame units. I'm going to put these over here, and you're going to follow page 2, and you're going to do that same exact technique with different fabric placement to make the right star frame unit. And so basically the white's on the left here, the white's on the right here, and your diagonal is a different direction. So just use that same technique. You're going to have 2 of each of these. Now the last step on page 2 is to make flying geese, which is super easy. You're going to take a fabric G rectangle, 2 fabric D squares, draw a line on the wrong side, and you can use any marking tool you like. I like friction pen because it will disappear with heat later. And you're going to add your square to one end, stitch directly on the line, trim 1/4 inch away. And that is going to give you the left side of your flying geese. Then on the opposite side, where this forms a point, add your last square, stitch on the line, and trim 1/4 inch away. And then this is what you're going to get. You're going to actually make 8 of these, but you need 4 for each block. So 8 of these and 8 of these, 4 for each block. Your next step is to make a square and a square block, and I did want to point out, if you want to do this using square and a square paper, you can use the 4-inch square and a square paper by It's So Emma that's listed on page 1, and for the flying geese you can also use foundation paper. I'm just showing you the traditional way today. So you're going to take your fabric A square and 4 fabric I squares. You're going to draw a line on the wrong side of those squares. You're going to put these on 2 opposing corners, trim 1/4 inch away, and this is what your unit will look like. Then you're going to take your remaining 2 squares and add them to the last corner. And here, the more you pin or the more you glue, and the more accurately you make this 90-degree angle, everything's going to line up better. stitch directly on the line, and this will be your square and a square unit. So you're gonna make 2 out of this fabric and 2 out of your mistletoe fabric for a total of 4 square and a square. So now we're kind of getting to the hard part. We're making this star that goes in the center, which is the hardest part of the unit. You're gonna take your square and a square and put it in the center. You're gonna add your flying geese around the center, touching the white and the pink. So instead of this, you'll have this. After you do that, add your fabric H squares to each side. You're gonna sew these with a 1/4 inch seam, press, sew these with a 1/4 inch seam and press. I do wanna give you a tip though. When you're joining these 2 seams, if you pressed according to our pattern, everything should nest a little bit. So you're going to poke your pin in that intersection, poke your pin in this intersection. Once it's there, you can pin each side, keep this in place, replace the pin, and then when you sew that together, your points should line up. You're gonna do that on all 4 of these intersections. And when you're done, your North Star unit will look like this. You're gonna make 2 out of your dove fabrics and 2 out of your mistletoe fabrics. And we did the poke a pin method here, and it looks nice and neat. Now, if you're somebody who doesn't wanna work with bulk, you could always just press open. It's totally up to you. Because we wanted this to be more beginner, we did this where we pressed to one side so the seams would somewhat nest. Now this is the trickiest part of the entire quilt pattern because you have to get all your fabrics in the right spot. So you're gonna take your dove fabric, you're gonna take a left unit that's polka dots, you're gonna take a right unit that is snowflakes. You're gonna sew those together, and this is going to be your North Star block. You're gonna make 2 of these. Now, when you are pinning, you'll wanna pin these intersections right here. You won't have to pin here though if you don't want to. So that's gonna be first. And then your second one is going to be your mistletoe with your snowflake on the left and your polka dot on the right. You're gonna make 2 of those. And that is going to look like this. This finishes at 8 by 16 inches, which is kind of a weird size, but when we start putting it together, it will make more sense. And then you're gonna make 2 of this and 2 of this. Just make sure all your pinks match and you have your red in the right spot. So we made our pattern really clear where you could see which red print is a dot and which red print is a snowflake. So this is your North Star block, and I'm kind of interested if you think about block 1, block 2, and block 3, can you kind of see how it's forming? You only have 1 more block left, so make sure to subscribe so you can follow us next week, and let me know in the comments what collection you're using. I can't wait to see everything you're making on social media, and I'll see you next week.